Okay, so the first video is going to be on adding and subtracting numbers with decimals. So there are 4 steps to adding and subtracting with decimals, and I'll pull them up right here. Still here, just tinier. So here are the 4 steps. Don't let them scare you. They're actually really easy, and we're going to go over them together anyway. So the first step is to line up the decimals. And the cool thing about this step is we can ignore the decimals afterwards till the very end. Sorry, my keyboard just popped up. So think about the statement 20 plus 9, right? If we wanted to rewrite that vertically, we would do 20 plus 9, right? That makes sense. That's good. Those both give us 29, right? But we absolutely cannot do 20 plus 9 like this, right? Because that's not what we originally said. That 9 is not in the ones place anymore, right? So lining up numbers vertically by place value is the exact same thing as lining up the decimals, right? So keep that in mind. If we wanted to add decimals to this, it'd be like 20.00 plus 9.00, right? And that's still good. You see how you know, this 0 and the 9 are still lined up, and now we just have extra decimals, right? Extra zeros, I mean. So cool. So keep that in mind. The second step is to insert zeros so each number has the same amount of numbers after the decimal point. This might not mean much to you now, but we're going to cement um, these rules with examples later on. Third step is easy. You just add or subtract. And the fourth step, you just bring the decimal point straight down. So let's do the first example. I will move the rules into like a corner or something. So let me pull up the example. The first example, right? We have, let's do example 1. Let's do 4 plus 0.3 plus 2.09, right? So it might look scary, but it's actually not. So what's step 1? Right? That's to line up the decimals. So let's do that first. I'll write it over here. We have 4, right? And 4 is the same thing as 4.0, right? That does not change the value of 4. That's still 4. And then we have 0.3. Then we have 2.09, add, plus. So you can see all the decimal points are totally lined up, right? But step 2, what was step 2? It was insert zeros after the decimal points so each number was the same length, basically. So if we look at the length of the numbers, 2.09 is the longest one, right? It has 3 numbers in it. 4.0 and 0.3 only have 2 numbers. So that means we have to add a 0 here and a 0 here. Now, each of the numbers are 3 digits long, and it's pretty to look at. The third step was add or subtract, right? Here we're adding, so we just add straight down like we normally would. 0 plus 0 plus 9 is 9. 0 plus 3 plus 0 is 3. And then 4 plus 2 is 6, right? So this says 639, but that's not quite correct, because then we just bring the decimal point straight down, right? Cool. So now we have our answer. 4 plus 0.3 plus 2.09 equals 6.39. I like to box my answers for organizational purposes. I think the teachers like looking at that. So here I'm going to have you try one. And then now we'll do a subtraction example. All right, so let's do example 2. Okay, so let's say we had 8 minus 2.607. Okay, so step one, look on the corner. We line up the decimals, right? So we have 8.0, right? That's still 8. And we have 2.607. Subtract. And again, step two has, basically says add zeros to the numbers so that they're all the same length, right? So this 8.0 is definitely shorter in length than the 2.607, right? So we need to add some zeros here. Third step is add or subtract, okay? So how do we subtract this? Well, we can't do 0 minus 7. We can do 0 minus 0, but we can't do 0 minus 6. So we're going to have to borrow from the 8, right? So we borrow from the 8. This becomes a 7. This becomes a 10, right? But I mean, we still have that 0 minus 7 at the end. So we're going to have to borrow all the way to the end. So we can borrow from the 10, make this a 9, change this to a 10, borrow this, borrow from that 10, and then make this last 0 a 10, right? So when we have zeros like that, like zeros in between other zeros, we can just change all the zeros in the middle to a 9, right? So if we had like 5.0000 minus 1.2341, same deal here. We don't have to say, oh, borrow from 0, or borrow from the 5, make it a 4, and then this becomes a 10, and this now is a 9, and this becomes a 10, and this is a 9, and this is 10. We don't have to do that, okay? We can just say, we're going to have to borrow from the 5 for sure, right? And then this last 0 will be a 10, and then all of these just become a 9. That's always going to happen when we subtract like this, okay? So keep that in mind. That's just a time saver. So we subtract now, right? 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 7 minus 2 is 5. And the last step is to carry the decimal straight down. Cool. And now we're done. And now you can try one.